What's up, guys? We are here with Matthew Poes and Dunn. How you guys doing tonight?
Hey, Gene, good.
All right. So we are bringing you a live stream tonight. It's actually an impromptu because we wanted to make an announcement that Matt and Don want to be doing a weekly thing on YouTube. Well, I'll let you guys describe it, but basically Matt and Don are polar opposites, but when it comes to home theater, it just gels so well.
We're not polar opposites. We love our kids. We're good husbands.
Yeah,
good.
That's true.
Yeah.
There you go.
You are polar opposites. So one guy wears flamingo shorts, the other guy wears NRA shirts. So it's polar opposites. But that said, we
My
find
shorts are trendy.
Sure, to keep telling yourself that.
It's cool.
It is cool for Matt. Anyways, I'm ragging on you. Sorry.
Opposites attract.
So, Don, why don't you describe what the purpose of why you wanted to do this, what kind of people you want to bring on to this weekly live stream, and kind of expand the Audioholics universe on what we're going to be doing on YouTube?
Well, certainly very grateful, Gene, to be doing this. So Matt and I have become pretty close. We're working on some projects together. We talk about a lot of design issues, a lot of audio issues, technology issues. We've really bonded and become really good friends, but more importantly, we're associates and we're working on some amazing projects, including the largest house ever built in the United States of America. We're working on doing $1 million plus theater in that one right now. So what we wanted to do is create a live stream with us without the Godfather in it. And we could just let our hair down, as you know, the people that follow you all the time know I'm little gruff, and bring on guests and bring on different people to talk about technology, speaker designers, amplifier designers, people that are on video, people that own high-end audio shops to talk about what are the trends, what are they selling, what are people buying now, to talk about and bring integrators on to look at the projects that they're doing. Just a snapshot, an overview of what's going on in the AV world right now, because it's a little shaky with all the fires and the hard to get equipment right now. I mean, it's very difficult to get here.
It is. A lot of people are buying what they can get rather than what they really want.
Yeah, and I got to say, Matthew Poes is an absolute genius. I'm more of a realist, being an integrator. I install systems every single day of all types, of all levels, all quality. And Matt is this great, amazing acoustician and just a technology guru. He's earned my incredible admiration and respect.
I appreciate that.
My
respect as well.
Have you guys decided on a time and day that you want to do this? Because I know it's 11 o'clock at night right now, but if you want to have guests on, obviously, most of the guests you're going to probably have on are not night owls like we are. So have you guys picked the time and date, or is it just going to be free form on a...
I mean, as of right now, I think we were talking about this time on Tuesday nights at 11, but if Matt can do it, Matt's got 2 small children, and being a father myself, I completely understand his limitations, but as a standard, probably Tuesday nights at 11. Wouldn't you agree, Matt?
Yeah, I think the plan's going to be that we're going to do this time as a standard. And we've actually talked to a number of guests who are comfortable with this. And then when we have guests who can only do earlier times, then we'll just do a different time and day for them. It'll be, occasionally a little freeform time.
Of course,
that makes
sense.
sense.
And we'll have guests from all over the world. So,
and I wanted to announce to you guys, we were all planning on going to CEDIA basically next week, but because of the whole COVID-19 thing, all the companies started jumping ship on it.
Sucks.
We decided, it does suck. We pulled out as well because it doesn't make sense to go to a show that has no manufacturers that are worth covering, or at least the majority of the manufacturers. Well, there are still some
worth covering, but
the
majority of
the majority of the key players are gone, and I don't think the show attendance is going to be very high. So what we're going to be doing, and you're going to be seeing this next week, is we're doing a shit ton of live streams.
That's United a little bit less than a fuck ton and a little bit more than an ass ton. So
it's a lot of ton. We're going to be doing, I'm pretty committed to doing 3 or 4 live streams a day for the first week of September. Sound United is the official sponsor, so Phil Jones is going to be heading up a lot of the educational seminars.
Sound United.
Yeah.
I mean, we need to talk about that at some point, how incredibly connected to their client base and what they're doing for Audio Sound United is. I mean, they're really killing it right now. They really are.
Yeah,
They're doing well. That's true.
They're doing well. And I mean, that's unsolicited. I haven't made a penny from South United, but I'm telling you, I love them. They're doing a great job. Phil Jones and the rest of the crew are amazing.
Yeah.
Well, Don, you and I have actually talked about this. There's a lot of high-end home theater processors, for instance, on the market that are technically, let's say, better than what's being offered by Marantz and Denon. But when you or I have to make a choice about what to put in a home, and reliability is the number one concern, those are the brands we tend to go to because we know
Range
rock
Rover
solid.
versus Toyota.
Yeah.
You want the overly complicated, unreliable piece, or do you want the super reliable, always starts, always works when you watch a movie? I agree.
It's like Yamaha being the Lexus, basically. You know, they don't break; they just work.
Dude, it's hard to argue that point. Well, if you're a consumer, you don't know. Not necessarily. You go by reviews and opinions from people on forums, but the reality is, from a guy in the trenches every day for almost 30 years, putting these systems in, Yamaha rarely breaks. Yamaha is probably more reliable than Toyota, if that can be said.
Yeah. No, it's true. And over the years of reviewing gear, I've definitely found that the Japanese-based products are the more reliable ones, especially when it comes to technology that's moving so rapidly. Like
well,
HDMI,
most of the Japanese-based ones.
Yeah, it's more vetted.
Yeah. Well, and Don, you had said to me at one point, we were talking about putting Trinov in a project, and it's still a product that I like because of its flexibility. But you had made a comment about the reliability. Yeah, but you had made a comment about reliability and how confident I was that, that basically it would stand up. And at the end of the day, weighing the two, I'm not. I think it's a good product, but I don't know that it compares to those Japanese products.
I just don't have enough feedback on it. We're vetting Storm Audio right now. Now, listen, I don't know if Storm Audio is quite to the level of Trinov, but certainly Storm Audio is it's a kick-ass product. From my experience with it at Gene's, I'm going to try to talk to them about getting one of their smaller preamp processors in my own system to use as a reference. If from my experience at Gene's, it's just the Japanese processors, Marantz, Denon, Yamaha, etc., are just bulletproof. I mean, it's hard to argue that. And they have a lot of the same processing chips and technology some of the really high-end units have because of their buying power. Now, I'm not saying there's anything that can compare the Trinov because, look, we all know Trinov is the kingpin. I mean, I just don't know what the reliability is.
Yeah.
Well, then most people don't need the capabilities of a Trinov or a Storm. I mean, in my situation, in Matt's situation, when we're doing advanced-based management, which, by the way, we're going to be doing a webinar on next week, those kind of processors make a lot of sense. Or if you're doing a really upscale multi-channel surround system that has more than 16 channels in a large room, then yes, you got to go beyond a Marantz or a Yamaha. Yamaha stops at
absolutely. That's 100% true. 100% true. It's just a matter of, now you have to understand, I'm coming from a background of selling high-end preamp processors from high-end audio manufacturers, Krell, et cetera. Not always the best results from it. Were we talking about the Mark Levinson the other day? That $20,000 or $30,000 two-piece unit. It was awesome when it worked.
Yeah. I actually had it for a while. I had bought it used because the thing had depreciated horrifically, and I later realized why it depreciated horrifically. I mean, it would go down constantly.
It looked great. It was amazing. So that leads us into our the stream that we're going to have. We're going to ask you guys a lot of questions on what do you want to learn about. Like one of the streams, we've got several guests lined up already. One of the things I wanted to is talk to like AV Pro Edge about, say you have a 5 or 6 year old receiver, still has Atmos, still has True HD, the DTS formats, but the video processing in it is kind of dated. We might have some options for you that you can bypass the video on that and still use the audio. We're going to do a stream on it. We're going to try to do things that are practical to what your home theater needs are.
Yeah. So what I'll do is I'll set up in the community tab, I'll set up a couple of like a polls or something and ask people, what would you like to see covered on the Matt and Don show? I'll come up with a couple of topics, let people vote on it. And then whoever gets the most votes, you guys focus that week on that topic.
But try to keep it related to home theater, audio, something like that.
Audio, video. Well, we could talk about, firearms training or whatever. I mean, it doesn't matter. We can
or fashion with flamingo shorts,
or how to make my incredible Donnie D extra dirty martini.
There you
right?
go.
That's non-alcoholic, right?
It usually ends with Don dancing.
Oh, shut up, Matt.
Oh, there's going to be more of that. We have another.
I'll never
RTJ.
outlive that. Never outlive that.
We have another RTJ video coming by Sunday. So stay
Speaking
tuned.
of that, I've got 4 18s coming to my house to review and listen to. So I'm pretty excited about that. Thank you, Jeff. Love you, Jeff. Jeff from JTR, RTJ, one of the best guys in the business. Love him.
Yeah, we had a good time
Absolutely.
with that little.
He's a good dude.
Demo.
He's a good dude. I mean, that goes a long ways in this business, is being a good person. It really does.
Yeah,
Good customer service,
absolutely.
taking care. He's built his own
anything in life.
following.
Yeah.
Well, that's true. No, it's true. God, so many great subjects and so much amazing audio to talk about right now. Oh,
So Matt, you have a slide presentation, or you have pictures, or what? What do you want me to share here?
It's a slide presentation. So if you let me share my screen.
The porta potty. The shitter's
The
full.
porta potty. Don's actually used that bathroom. I haven't, but
I did. I flushed too.
You flushed. I'm glad you flushed. So
for those that don't know, Matt is also building a smart house, kind of like what I was doing. He's moved to Sarasota, which is about an hour and a half from me. And like what I did on the Audioholics YouTube channel, Matt's going to be doing for us and on his own channel, documenting the entire process, doing his home, doing it his way.
What shipping containers?
we're shipping. There actually are no shipping containers in this house. But yes, it is.
No, it's actually a super contemporary, badass house. I went there. I was there on what was that, Monday? Yeah, it was amazing.
Monday. Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I mean, this is a cube style home basically. So it's modern or contemporary. It's got flat roof, and you can see the large windows up in the front there. For scale, those windows are about 8 feet by 6 feet that you see on the left there, and then it's 8 by 2 on the other side. The garage is below it. So this is just the outside of it. That though, we're not going to really focus too much on the house itself, but this is what it looks like. This is a rendering of the front. It's a 3/4 elevation of the house. So roughly it's going to look like that. You can see it's white, and you can see the upper section. Let's see. Here's the back. The only thing I'll mention is those little wood trusses are not correct. It's actually going to be a concrete overhang. So there's a 10-foot overhang on the right there that actually kind of gives us a patio area. There's a pool. Should be fun. There's going to be some sound out there. But let's talk about the dedicated media room. So first, let's get into the sound mitigation. So it's a second floor space. It's that area you saw over the garage. The part in the front is the office. And then behind it, there's a windowless area. It's actually the media room. It's 15 feet, 8 inches wide by 19 feet, 4 inches long, and it's got 10-foot ceilings roughly. I haven't actually measured the room now that the drywall's up, so we'll see what it came to. I know that
we call that an intimate space.
Yeah, it's not a huge room, but it's a good size for somebody like me. Yeah. So the outer walls, that means the exterior walls, there's 2 of those in the room, are 2x6, and they use these new, relatively new product called the Hush Frame Rafts. There's 2 layers of drywall on the inside, 2 layers of plywood on the outside, R19 insulation inside, and that gives you an STC of roughly 63, which is really good. Normally you can't get that with a 2x6 wall, so being able to do a 2x6 wall, not really lose much of any floor space at all, and achieve STC 63 is pretty extraordinary. So this is one of the wall designs that I would use with clients. The partition walls, on the other hand, were done a little bit differently. Some of it was cost issues, and some of it actually, because I did give up floor space for this, but some of it was done for other reasons, which is that I wanted to make sure I had a good amount of sound isolation at low frequencies. So even though that wall reaches STC 63, where you will see that walls tend to do more poorly is at the low frequencies. The double stud wall has roughly the same STC rating. It's about an STC 65, but its low frequency isolation is a lot better because the air gap is huge. Instead of being just about 5.5 inches, it's basically 9.5 inches. But the other advantage is I did in-wall subs in the back of the room, very high output in-wall subs, and I needed the extra depth. The floor is decoupled, so it's a floating floor. Don, you were jumping on it. The thing is like a trampoline, right? It's pretty cool.
It's actually amazing. It's really cool. It's like a really, really, really stiff mattress, but with a little give. First thing I noticed when I walked in, I was blown away, not just by this room, but the whole house, but focusing on this room. It's rare to find a room that's from the ground up built correct. I mean, from every aspect.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the whole point of this was, I wanted a room that was sound mitigated, but also because I wanted to be able to show other folks what I can do. So I'm documenting the process, taking pictures, and then this will be something that I can invite people into so they can see for themselves. I mean, the door that's coming in, the shipping weight of the whole door, including the crate, is 650 pounds. The door itself is 350 pounds. That's the slab.
You told me that. I was like, whoa.
It's a massive door. The wall ratings are all, as I said, basically 63 plus. You've got the floor. So just to give you guys an idea, typical floors where you've just got drywall on the the bottom part where the ceiling would be, and then on the actual floor part, you've got your plywood decking. Maybe you threw some insulation in there. You're looking at like IICs in the 30s, maybe 20s even in some of the worst ones. Wow. STC rating is probably going to be high 30s, maybe low 40s. This one is going to have an IIC of around 56. The STC is going to be closer to 60. So that's actually really exceptional. And that's basically due to the floating floor. It's actually, the performance on this in the lab tests that were done is so good that it competes with doing a 2-inch to 3-inch slab, a floating slab, which is often, it's actually what I wanted to go with, but it was $5,000 just for the slab alone. And this performs just as well. So that's really nice because this was not $5,000. And then the ceiling uses the hush frame rafts, 2 layers of drywall, R38 insulation. I have no idea what the STC is. It's not something that was ever tested, but it would be at least STC 63 because the air gap, it's basically the same as the 2x6 wall with a much bigger air gap.
Now, your theater room is on the second floor, right?
Correct. It is, yes. Mm-hmm. And what I've done is isolated it in a way that provides good isolation to the neighbors. It makes the room quieter. It means I'm not going to annoy them as much, but then it also provides as much or better insulation to the rest of the house. About 85-90% of the room actually sits over the garage. So the portion of it does sit over one of the bedrooms, but it's, with all of the isolation that I've done, it really should be pretty good.
It's an amazing room. And in fact, when I went in, I was kind of banging on the walls, which I know is kind of Neanderthal, but you can tell a lot by doing that one. And it was solid, completely solid. Like
the double layers of drywall that were done definitely makes the walls more solid, but because they're on decoupling clips on all these outside walls, you are getting the benefit of some give to it.
Did you put green glue between the layers?
So I actually didn't, and a lot of people are probably going to wonder why, but I was going to do that, and then I started to do a lot of research on basically what kind of STC performance you get from different walls. And the walls that I wanted to build had never been tested by green glue, I thought. So I started sending emails out to some of the labs that do the testing to find out if they actually had, because I had emailed the company, St. Gobain, they basically didn't give me an answer. So I thought, okay, so let me talk to some other companies and find out. And one of the labs basically said, oh yeah, they did test it. There's a reason why you can't find it. I said, why? They said, because it didn't perform any better than no green glue at all. So basically what I found out was once the wall, it does work. I don't want people to walk away and say I'm suggesting it doesn't work. It does. It doesn't work quite as well as they suggest it does, including when you get to a certain point, it just doesn't matter anymore. Basically, part of how it works is it helps to decouple the 2 layers of drywall. It creates a constrained layer damping as well, which has got some benefit to it. But if the wall is already relatively well decoupled and has a lot of mass in it, it's just not going to add any benefit. So in the case of these double stud walls like I did here, you might gain an STC point, probably not. In the case of those decoupled walls, you'll get nothing. It actually was tested. It didn't provide any benefit at all. So I decided not to waste the money on it. I mean, not only does the material have a cost to it, but the labor as well. And as a lot of people probably know, I'm building in the midst of one of the worst times to build. Material costs have gone through the roof. Labor costs are up. And I wanted to keep cost reasonable because I am paying for this. And that would have gotten pretty expensive. So given that it would have offered basically little to no benefit, I decided it wasn't worth it. So it's 2 layers of drywall. They're right on top of each other. Some of the things that I've advocated in the past, I've mentioned to Eugene as well about how the constrained layer damping should provide less stiffness, things like that. It turns out that's not true. Once the screws go through it, yeah, I thought it was, and it made sense. I talked to somebody, though, who had done a lot of extensive testing on this. It was Ron Saros at NWA Labs, and he basically said, yeah, I mean, that may be true in theory, but it didn't hold up. Once we put it in the lab, it really didn't do that. So I decided that, being realistic about it, it just didn't make sense. So anyway, here's details of the room. You can see all those little wooden blocks everywhere. You can see them on the floor, and you can see them on the wall in that right picture. Those are the hush frame decouplers. You can see the leftmost one, that's the double stud wall, pretty sizable air gap. That's what gives me the 9.5 inches. And then you can also see the insulation on the floor. That actually was double the thickness. Half of that gets pulled up and then was laid out in other sections, so it's not really that thick. 2 layers of plywood were put down, and that's the decking layer that Don and I were jumping around on that basically floats. Those, you could see it in the other picture, but those hush frames actually have like a silicone layer that acts like a damp spring, and it works really well. It was actually impressive. They cost something like, I think in bulk, you know, once you're buying for like a house, maybe $250 a piece, something like that. So the cost of it isn't all that great because they're done 24 inches on center for the floor, 16 inches on center for the stud walls, but then 24 inches up in height. So you don't actually, I mean, it's at most a couple $1,000 basically in isolators.
They glued to the floor or what?
They're screwed. And then one of the things we realized though, when we put so the company had actually not done any testing on the floor, and they didn't provide a lot of guidance. So we talked about how to do this. And when I talked to the guy that was doing all of the work for me, he said, you know, I hear what they're saying about you know, you can't screw through those, through the top of them, because you could end up shorting them out by having the screw go all the way through the spring part into the bottom layer. He goes, the problem is it's got to be adhered in some way. So I said, all right, why don't we glue it? He goes, well, it's got to be clamped. So what we did was we actually bought short wood screws that we knew couldn't possibly go all the way through. And that's what they did for the floor. So it is screwed in. They screwed the bottom plate into the floor itself, into the decking. And then they put those 2 layers of decking on top. They screwed those in as well, but the screws are so short that they can't go through the spring. So it's got glue on it. It's got screws in it. So basically it's pretty solid. It shouldn't squeak. Nothing should vibrate.
No, it was really, it was an interesting experience walking on it, for sure. I mean, I've been to a Keith Yates room, and it was very similar to that, you know, walking on it. So yeah. It was great.
I mean, the idea of a floating floor is nothing novel. It's just that normally they cost a lot more money, and you don't see them in houses like this. Now, the one thing I will say for people who are curious is that because the subwoofers are going to sit on top of that, the whole floor is going to shake. Like, it's actually going to be kind of a cool thing. You're going to get a lot of tactile effect from it. All right, so then here's some more details. So rightmost picture, people probably recognize that. Those are putty pads. Those are usually they're used for fireproofing. It keeps the fire from being able to get into the box, but it also provides sound mitigation. What you do is you wrap the putty pad around it. That one wasn't done yet. I was in the process of doing it, just took a picture. But basically you want to wrap it around primarily the back and sides where the air would come in, and then you wrap it around the wire itself at the top and bottom. And it provides an air seal and some mass against sound getting through. It's not super important for if you happen to miss it, but you can lose an STC point or two. You can see the mounts, which I'm going to have a better picture of the in-wall subs. There's 2 of those.
We should talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, that was my own thing.
If you're building with a builder, they're going to look at you with dead eyes when you start talking about this. We should talk about that because builders aren't used to building this way. And sometimes, I mean, it depends on your builder. Some builders are cool with it and let you roll. Some builders are going to be like, what? Huh?
Yeah. And there's no denying that my builder was a bit that way, but he is a custom builder, so I was able to do more. So here's a detailed picture of the decoupled subwoofer mount. Basically, I used hush frames and isolated L brackets. This is my own thing. I came up with this. You're not going to give yourself a pat in the back for this, but basically most in-wall subwoofers will screw directly into the stud. Now, like JL Audio has an amazing system, even Triad does, but these are RBH subs, and actually Matt came up with this amazing idea and way to mount the subwoofer in the wall so that it decouples from the studs in the room, and it worked out. In my lead installation manager did this for him, and it worked out amazing. I'm super impressed, super impressed, Matt. Yeah, I think RBH is actually looking at putting this together as a kit that they could offer with the sub potentially for a mount. So for those of you who are wondering why I did this, there's also hush frames that are sitting under it. So it sits on top of basically springs. There's 4 springs under it, and then there's these 4 spring mounts on top. And the reason for that is, had I not done this, had I done what Don said and screwed it directly into the stud wall, which is
what RBH said, not what Don said. Let's clarify that.
Well, no. Yeah. Yes. Had I done what RBH had told me to do and what most subwoofers do, it would have transmitted low frequency energy directly into the floor, because those stud walls, they have a little tiny bit of decoupling on the front one, the inner frame one, but the rear one isn't decoupled. It's actually structural in this one case. And so I would have been transmitting all that low frequency energy right into the house. It would have basically undone everything I did. And that would have been pretty sucky. So in order to make sure that I'm not transmitting all this low frequency energy through the house, I had to make sure that the subs themselves were decoupled. So the problem is, if you do like just a weak decoupling, like just a little rubber washer or something, you're not going to get much out of it. You actually need to get a pretty good amount of travel. So this thing can move, I'd say at least half an inch, which allows us to absorb a lot of that shake.
So what if you were just going to install that subwoofer between the studs and you didn't put it all the way to the floor? You left like a 6-inch air gap between the floor.
Hold
you
on,
still
I'm going
have
the wrong way.
problem?
If you mount it to the studs, it's still going to transmit all the energy right to the floor. So if you don't decouple it, it's not going to help anything. It doesn't matter where you mount it in the wall. If it's connected to the studs are connected to the floor, which connects to the rest of the house.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. See.
Yeah, I mean, like our JL Audio does with their suspension system. This is just a different way of looking at it, and actually ingenious. I mean, I'm sure RBH is going to adopt this as a system for them because they're that kind of company. But hats off to you, brother. Look, Matt, I was like, wow, that was super cool.
It worked out really well. Yeah, I was impressed. It was just something that made sense. All right, so the great room has a system as well. The great room is basically the living room area, but it's open to the kitchen, so it's officially called a great room. So the left is the inspiration. This is not what mine is going to look like, but we saw that picture. We thought that was really cool. It's black marble. I think it's called Nero marble, and so we're doing something very similar. It is going to have the fireplace, not the three-sided like that, but it's going to have a fireplace, and then you can see them there. There's speaker brackets, and these are for some DefTech speakers that we're putting in. You can see all the wiring that's going into it. You've got speaker cables running to each one of those speaker brackets, but then you can see a whole bunch of Cat 5 cable hanging in there. And that's because, Don, you had convinced me, and I followed your recommendations to really wire the house up. I mean, there's got to be at least a mile's worth of wire in that house at this point. At least
more than a mile.
So this is the great room, a little bit less naked. I don't have a picture of what it looks like right now. I'll
just attest that I saw it when I went there Monday, and I was like, wow, that's just badass. It's not only it sticks out from the wall, it keeps that kind of squared contemporary style line, but in a perfect way to present a TV and a surround system that are hidden and not focus on the room at all. I mean, it was really, really genius. I love that idea, Matt. Hats off to you.
Yeah, thank you. So definitely there's that cube theme that we went with. It's the shape of the house is carried out throughout. There's a floating ceiling as well there, and then in the bedroom you can see it framed in. So the dedicated media room, just to kind of go through the equipment, for now it's probably going to change. We've been talking a lot about this, but for now at least it's my Gedley Abbey LCRs. The surround speakers are pending. Various companies I've been talking to about that. So there's various options that could go in there. The Atmos is pending. Same thing. We've talked to some companies, still working out exactly what that's going to be. But everything's wired up. We just have to put them in place.
So in the theater room, let's talk about that. Instead of building a full baffle wall that eats up space in the entire room, spatially, we're talking about designing kind of a centerpiece, not dissimilar from what you did in the family room, to house the screen and the speakers behind an acoustically transparent screen.
Yeah, so the family room has that thing that comes out that the TV's mounted to and the fireplace is on, but it's only about 6 inches deep or so. Maybe it's a little deeper than that, maybe 8 inches deep. And in the media room, it'll have to be bigger than that. But we're going to do something very similar. After the whole room is all sealed up and finished, we're going to frame in a couple of things. And one of them is we're going to frame in essentially like a baffle wall, this little area. But instead of being, not that the baffle wall can't be this shallow, but instead of being, let's say, 2 feet deep, it's only going to probably be about 12 inches deep. So that way we don't give up very much floor space. And it'll give me, though, some options for speakers in the future.
And it doesn't go the width of the room, which is nice.
No, it's just going to be basically the size of the screen.
Yeah, it's a perception spatially of how rooms, because so many times, like, remember, Gene, when we were designing your room, I was like trying to sidetrack you all the time when you're talking about put more stuff in. I'm like, listen, dude, when you get that room done, it shrinks real quick. You know what I mean? Yeah,
it does.
It really does. And that's where in wall or in ceiling type products really come into play, especially for sides, surrounds, Atmos, subwoofers. It just really frees. It gives you a lot of options because let's face it, large speakers take up a lot of room.
Yeah,
they do.
So have you figured out the speaker layout? Like, are you doing a 7.2.4 or what are you doing in there?
Yeah, so it's I mean, I suppose it's a 7.4.4 system. So some people are probably wondering why I'm not doing like 9 channels for the base layer or something, but it's my opinion is it's just not necessary. I didn't wire for it either, but you know, I suppose I could do it in the future if I really thought so, but I've never found like the wide speakers to be that critical. So what I'm going to do is just the 3 speakers up front, 4 in the ceiling. There is 4 subwoofers, 2 in the back, 2 in the front, and then the 4 base layer surround speakers. So it's going to be a pretty basic setup in that regard, but all the speakers will be high quality. Acoustic treatments are all going to be, to the extent possible, designed into the room. So I've shown Don some pictures I've kind of looked at and thought could be cool for how we're going to do this. So we'll see. I don't want to show pictures of that yet because I haven't really fully fleshed that out. But anyway, here's the basic equipment as it stands. The processor could change. Same thing. The Trinov is probably going to go in there at some point in the future since it's a product that I sell. They're just expensive, even for a dealer to buy it. Like my dealer cost is still a lot of money. So I haven't done that yet, but maybe in the future. All the cable came from Monoprice. They hooked us up for that, which was really great, and I appreciate that. Monoprice. Thank you very much. And we wired the whole house. It's really good cable, I have to say. I ended up having to quickly get some speaker cable for some runs in the back that we had not done quite right. And just seeing the difference between the Monoprice cable that I had, the speaker cable, and this other one that I bought it because I could get it locally quickly. And it was more expensive and much worse quality.
So there's a big thing that a lot of people feel like more speakers is better. And that's not necessarily true because less speakers, but properly placed with the proper power and the proper processing, it actually outdoes more speakers. You know, I know Aura 3D really had a big impact on people and they were doing multiple layers and a ridiculous amount of speakers in rooms. That's not necessarily always better. Build your system for what surround formats you can actually listen to that are recorded in.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And at the end of the day, the biggest thing, there's 2 factors that are going to matter more than anything. Number 1 is the speakers and number 2 is the room. So if you have a finite budget, now I know some people are going to be like, yeah, that's why 2-channel is good. You just get the best possible speakers. Well, except for that, there's a lot of problems with a 2-channel system, which we'll have somebody coming on who will help explain that a little bit more. But forgetting that for a moment, when you get into surround, most of the research actually suggests that a basic 5.1 system gets you probably 90% there. Atmos adds something to it. Beyond that, most of the extra stuff, even like the rear surround's not that important. And so adding the wide speakers, adding even more ceiling speakers, adding extra layers doesn't really change the immersiveness all that much. But if to afford doing that, you have to go to a lower quality speaker, which Don, you and I see people do that all the time. It's not really a good idea. You're making huge compromises in sound. All right, well.
Quality over quantity. Quality over quantity.
So the great room equipment.
We had that same debate, Gene, at your place, remember? We were talking about we need the speaker for the voice of God. I'm like, listen, dude, let's do a lot of speakers, but let's do the speakers that matter. Let's do higher quality speakers with better amplification. And listen, how good of an image and sound can you get out of a really good holographic sound from a good 2-channel system? Let's take that same concept into surround and do the minimal amount that we can get away with. I mean, we could have put 47 speakers in that room, but it wouldn't have made it any better. It wouldn't have made sense.
No, and especially when you're dealing with the kind of products that we're putting in our rooms, both Matt and myself.
Totally.
Huge dynamic range speakers. The front sound stage is pretty large to begin with. So how are you going to put multiple center channels there when you already have?
I mean, it took me a while to talk
6 feet tall.
It took me a while to talk Matt out of doing a Bose lifestyle system in his family room.
Oh yeah, I bet.
Well, I was actually at one point, I was just going to do a basic sound bar in there, and then Don and Gene were like, no, you got to do something good. So Sound United actually hooked us up on this too. And so I'm able to do something really nice in there. And so it's using DefTech speakers. It's the DI 6.5 LCRs. And we're doing those actually for the LCR speakers, which they're made for, but also the surrounds. I didn't use the surround version. I'm not a huge fan of that angled. They have like a speaker that's got these two drivers that are angled. They're kind of like a bipole or something, yeah, but they're in wall. There's probably scenarios where that actually would make a lot of sense. For me, I actually wanted direct radiating speakers that had the same timbre to them, basically across all the channels. So
it's a perfect setup. Listen, the way you laid it out, it's a 522, right? Is that correct?
Yep. Yeah, 522.
It's perfect. Even though the subwoofers are high up on the ceiling, doesn't matter. They're still going to load off the ceiling. I was blown away when I actually walked it with the drywall up, how the layout was. And people that walk into the room will have no idea what they're stepping into.
Yeah, I mean, the whole system is going to be basically hidden. So you're going to have that marble front area where the TV is. I'm going to paint the grills and the frames black in a color that matches the marble. I'm not going to try to get fancy and match the white streaks or anything. But I think it'll blend in well enough. On the back wall, everything will be painted white to match the white of the walls. For those who have no idea what Don's talking about, so I have these Definitive Technology IW subs. I have 2 of them. And they're going to go up. They're supposed to go on the walls. I had this plan. I was going to put like one in the front wall, one in the back wall. And then the problem was to put it in the front wall, it had to go in that TV stand because the rest of the wall wasn't thick enough to handle it. And putting it in the TV stand would have been tricky given that it's covered in marble. So I would have had to cut a huge section of marble out and stick it in there. And so I decided I don't want to deal with that. So then I'm going to put it in this back wall behind me. It's fine to have the 2 back there. I can integrate it. And then the wall goes up. And I never really bothered to tell the plumber, the HVAC guy, the electricians, everybody else, what's going in there. I mean, I had a drawing, but they didn't see it. Or if they did, they didn't pay attention. So I walk in one day and they've got stuff everywhere. They've got plumbing running through the wall. They've got electrical. So I was able to move some stuff around for the surround speakers. But for the subs, there was no place for them. So I decided, you know what, I'm just going to make my life easier. We're going to stick them up near the ceiling. Yep. So they're not actually in the ceiling. It's in the wall. They're just pushed way up towards the ceiling.
Which doesn't matter. Listen, welcome to my world. Yeah. I have to deal with that day to day. But where they're located, it's perfect. They're going to load off the ceiling. They're going to be fine. The cool factor is you're going to walk into this ultra contemporary, beautiful room, lots of light, natural light, lots of glass. And you're just going to hear this badass, amazing system, and nobody's going to see anything. And as an integrator, that's what we do for people. Most do-it-yourself people don't have any idea how good a sound you can actually get from doing that.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is going to surprise people. It's not really meant to be like a high-end home theater. That's what the dedicated room's for. It's meant to be just an entertaining space where like the kids can watch TV. You know, we can put on a movie just as a family. There's a lot of times when just casually we want to watch something. I want a little bit better sound, but I don't need what I get out of a theater. And this is a perfect space for that. It's going to have hopefully, I think the plan is a 77-inch OLED TV. We've measured it. It should fit. I originally was going to do a 65-inch, but again, Gene and Don talked me out of that, said it's too small. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about this. I like the OLED TVs. I think the picture is awesome.
So with theaters, I do quite a few theaters. What I find with most of my clients is that a theater is a destination location. And more often than not, it ends up being every so often a new movie's come out. Let's all gather and watch it. Or the kids go there and play video games. But the family room system gets used day in, day out, all the time. So we try to put some emphasis now on designing really kick-ass family room systems to kind of coincide with the theaters. Whereas years ago, we would just do something simple and we would focus all of our energy on the theater.
Yeah. So in my situation, in my house, I use my family room system probably 90% of the time, even though I have a dedicated theater room. It's just convenient. Everyone wants to sit on the couch, it's by the kitchen. I'm so glad we put a kick-ass system in there because it's very enjoyable.
Dude, your family room system rocks.
Yeah, like, it sounds really good.
And that room measures good. It's a great setup, especially in Atmos. And, you know, Matt and I are going to do since we're doing this, we're going to do a whole stream on Atmos music. Like how amazing that is. Instead of just high-end companies setting up a 2-channel room, how about setting up a full Atmos room for music?
It should be. Yeah, absolutely.
I agree.
Yeah. I mean, ideally, you can set up a system that works good for both. But for people, I know guys actually, they're really into surround music, and they've actually set up systems not for movies, but just surround music. And they have often, I mean, some of the best ones will have 5 identical speakers. So literally, even the surround speakers are the exact same speaker, and they sound excellent. I mean, it's completely cohesive.
I mean,
So
there's so
looking
many
at here.
So where you're looking at a Sonance in-ceiling 3-way speaker. So Sonance hooked us up too. We were talking to them about reviewing their products. So I should mention, when I say they hooked us up, all of these products are getting reviewed. That's why they're going into the house, is it's part of our review. It's really hard for us to review in-wall and in-ceiling speakers because we can't cut holes in our walls.
You're committed like the pig, right? When you
I mean, once we put it in, it's in there. You know, it'd be nice if they all were the same size, but they do differ, you know, a bit. And I don't want to put holes in my walls, take them out, send them back. They don't really want the product back once it's covered in dust. So we don't review those. And actually, most review sites don't review those. So we talked to these guys and said, hey, we have an opportunity. Gene's building a house. I'm building a house. If you want to send us some products that we can put in there, we can at least review it. It's not going to happen again, right? Like next year, I'm not going to be putting in more speakers and reviewing those.
Right.
Watch that. I probably am, but
no, Sonance is a true audio company. They're a true audiophile company. People, because they mainly make architectural products, people mistakenly think that they're just a run-of-the-mill company trying to make really funky looking things that go in ceilings. They are an audiophile company. In fact, their powered subwoofers can hold their own with any of the major brands.
Yeah, you mentioned. Don't they have a 15-inch outdoor subwoofer?
No, well, they do. Their outdoor landscape audio is hands down the king. They do multiple systems with like 8 satellites or 4 satellites, and either a 10-inch, 12-inch, or 15-inch sub. They sound amazing.
So they own a company. They bought a company that I think is actually the.
Well, they bought James. Yeah.
James has a 21-inch outdoor subwoofer.
Yeah. Dude, James. Let me tell you something. James was my go-to theater speaker for many years. James is an amazing, from their Maverick system. James, if you say whatever you want to make to fit a space, James can make the best possible audio. And Gene, you heard their outdoor towers. What'd you think?
Yeah, I love them.
You were blown away.
That whole demo when we heard all the Sonance, Sonance has invisible speakers now that look like drywall. Basically, typically drywall type of those invisible speakers sucked in the past because they have very low sensitivity. They don't sound good. They set up a demo where they had their drywall invisible speakers right next to their conventional in-wall speaker, and they were virtually identical. They had the same sensitivity rating. They had bass. They had good highs. I mean, honestly, if I was doing my house over again now, I would be putting some of those invisible speakers, maybe even in my bedroom or something, because they're that good.
Yeah, it looks like a really impressive product. I haven't heard it yet, but I know you guys are both really impressed by it. And
their Maverick system is like a JBL synthesis, RTJ, like super high output. They make 21-inch subwoofers. I mean, they're a legit company. And so Sonance makes architectural products that would really blow your mind how good they sound for most people. They're not just let's put out some speakers because we're a brand. A lot of companies will just call China and say we need this, and this. It's not like that with Sonance. That's what they specialize in. They're amazing.
So we'll find out how good they are. I've got the VP82R coming, the VP62R, and the VP Extreme. So the VP82R is so that's an outdoor speaker for those that don't know. It's a weather resistant. So the 82Rs are going in the bedroom. The 62Rs are going in the bathroom because, of course, you got to rock out in there. And then the Extremes are going to be outside by the pool area. And we've done distributed video in the house with HD Base T. So we can that way what we can do is have one source actually send video out to everything. So every display has the same thing on it. We've got the whole house amplifier. I actually haven't picked the amplifier yet. I've got some ideas. I really like the Blue Sound, Blue OS stuff. So that's one of the options I'm looking at. But we'll see. There's other things.
Blue Sound rocks because it's like Sonos but high resolution, and it's room compatible for the audiophile. I mean, I'm telling you, there's so many great products. Those Sonance 3-way 8 inches that you get, you're going to be shocked how good they sound. Like they're amazing, like crazy good.
Well, I
But
can't.
it's a brand that nobody knows about because nobody in the forums talks. Everybody talks about the mainstream brands. I'm telling you, there's some companies out there killing it that people don't know about.
Yeah, well, I reviewed the Voyager, the 8-inch two-way.
No, that's not. It's not the Voyager, or is it? No, it's not.
Is it? I forgot.
No,
what it's
that's
called.
the Boston Acoustics. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, I reviewed the Mariner. I'm sorry, the Mariner.
Mariner
86. Mariner 86.
Those things sounded at your old house. They were amazing. I couldn't believe how good they sound. Yeah, like literally, you could have a bourbon and a cigar and put your deck chair out and listen to those things, and they sound like an audiophile pair of bookshelves.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, we'll have the stuff set up. Now, Don, your guys came out and did everything, including what did you call it, a sub out on the outside? So I'm able to connect into that.
Yeah. So when we wire a house, we always do an audio stub out with one or two 14 4s and then a Cat 6. We do that because that way you can bring landscape audio around your pool, and then like Sonance. Actually, James invented this system. James still makes it. Sonance makes them now. Klipsch and Martin Logan and many companies make them where it has 4 or 8 little satellites that look like landscape lighting, and they mount in the ground and they point up. Then they have a sub, either a 10 or 12 or even a 15 or 22 in case of James, but they bury in the ground and you angle them back. So when you're out enjoying music, entertaining, hanging out, you can have all these speakers playing at a low volume. Your in ceilings on the lanai playing at a low volume. Now you have sound reinforcement. So wherever you are in that back area, you have beautiful music, but it's not so loud that you can't talk. Versus if you just had a pair that you put up in your lanai, now you got to crank them so loud to hear them out here. When you're on the lanai, you can't even have
consistent sound throughout the whole area. Basically.
Exactly. That's the purpose of sound reinforcement. And that's what we do as integrators. And companies like Sonance and James and Klipsch and Martin Logan and the list goes on actually make great products to do this. But especially the Sonance. You're going to be blown away if you get one of those Sonance systems.
Well, we'll see what's going to happen in the backyard. I'm hoping to put something around the pool. For now, I'll have the in-ceiling speakers in that overhang area. But anyway, we've got it all hooked up. We've got the 3, it's actually 3 or more. Some of the areas had more than 3 Cat 6A runs going to it, which isn't just for networking. I mean, I can use it for video. I can use it for other future-proofing. There's multiple media feeds outside. So there's one that's going to be for an outdoor TV on one of the side walls there. And I'll probably put something in there, but then you convinced me. And so I went ahead and had it wired up. So I've got an outlet and a media feed going for a projector so that I can do something so that you could watch movies from the pool on a projector system. So I don't have the projector for the outside, but if I get one in the future for that, I can set it up. At least I'm all wired up for that. Again, monoprice cable throughout. They provided us with everything we needed. So it's really great.
Since this is my live stream, our live stream, I wanted to, one of my builders and I, a few years ago, came up with an idea and we're able to actually work it out. And it worked out so good that we won Best Custom Home in the World, the HG 2020 for in 2019. But it's the ability to use mosquito netting and embed a film screen in it. So if any of you guys want to check out the coolest outdoor video theater presentation, it's www.mediarollerscreens.com. That's www.mediarollerscreens.com.
I'll put a link in the description.
Yeah, it's check that website out. It's really cool. If you have the space to do it, and I'm hoping we can do that at some point at Matt's, it's an amazing way to get video that plays on both sides at the same time outside. So you could sit in your pool and have we've done up to 170-inch screen right in front of a pool and speakers all around it with the Sonance. And now you've got this amazing outdoor theater.
Well, the area where we can mount it on mine is cantilevered. So there's actually no posts that support it because the thing is self-supporting. Right. So even though it's only 10 feet wide, we can actually do a bigger screen than that, which is pretty cool.
Oh, yeah, for sure. We could drop one. The problem is that when most outdoor screens, people want to do theaters by a pool or in their yard or whatever, is that these large screens, when you pull them down, are like sails. They're completely susceptible to any kind of wind at all. Even, the beauty of what we did built into the mosquito netting is that when it rolls down, it's taut. It doesn't move. So, but I've got way other ideas for your place, Matt. Trust me.
Well, yeah, we'll figure it out. Anyway, this is all the equipment that's going into it. You know, one of the keys for me too is going to be, my wife is not into this kind of stuff. You know, she's actually, I think, very leery of what I've been doing. She keeps joking. She's like, well, maybe she's not joking. She might be serious. She keeps saying to me, she's like, weren't you going to ask permission? Like, didn't you want to talk to me before you bought all that stuff or got all of it? But I told her, like, we're going to integrate it all so it's easy. So there is going to be a Control4 system that's going to pull it all together. We're going to get that program so that, you know, like, she's got certain things she likes to do. She's going to have the remote or the app. She pushes her button, her Russian TV comes on or whatever. She can play her music. I'm going to make sure, because if I use, for instance, Blue Sound or some of the other options I've looked at, they all have AirPlay, which is great because for a lot of people, I mean, Don, that biggest house in America, this was brought up too. A lot of people are more comfortable using the native app of whatever it is they're into than they are the app of the whatever, you know, whatever control system you have. And by having AirPlay as one of the options, then you don't have to teach somebody how to use, for instance, the Blue OS or the Sonos or whatever app. They can use whatever they like. They, you know, my wife likes listening to music on YouTube a lot, so that's not always an option with some of those other systems. But with AirPlay,
once it's in though, and speaking from experience, believe me, my biggest resistance that I deal with is pissed off wives. You know what I mean? They're like, I want a badass kitchen, I want this and that. Whatever, I don't even want to deal with it. But once we put it in and you show them how actual simple it is, they're like, wow, that's pretty easy. That's the biggest. I've actually had people tell me, oh, I don't really like music. I'm like, what? What kind of human being are you? Not, but what I come to find out is, you know, you had to hit this button here and grab this thing here and move it here. And it was a pain in the ass. And once it's simple to use, trust me.
So, Matt, one thing you got to remember is it's always better to beg for forgiveness than ask for permission.
Yeah.
Well,
I think
Gene's talking like he's Ike Turner, whatever, dude.
Actually, I got my wife trained before I married her. She was into this stuff.
This is how I asked.
Never a problem. Never a problem. More tech, the better, as far as we're
right.
Yeah. Well, my wife is not into it, but she puts up with it. She will be good.
She will be.
She appreciates good sound.
We got like another 6 or 7 minutes. How do you want to, I guess, recap or talk about what we're going to be doing next week or what you guys want to be doing next week?
Well, we've got some guests coming on. So Don was talking about a lot of the industry insiders. I think those of you that know me know that I tend to go to the academic side. So I've got folks that I've been talking to who do a lot of research in this field that have really pushed the boundaries of good sound. And they're going to come on and talk a lot about the type of stuff that they've researched and what they found. You know, we talk a lot about Harman's research and what it's found in terms of reproducing good sound. But we've got a guy from Princeton who's done a lot of research that I think takes a different perspective, and as a result, the findings he have tend to be honest, in some ways more consistent with my own experience as to what matters. And I think it comes down to preferences. Some people, the spectral balance, the timbre is the most important thing. And if that's true, probably what Harman says is going to lead you down a good road for good sound reproduction. On the other hand, there's other people like myself who are really into the spatial aspect of the sound. They making it sound like it's like a you are there experience where it sounds like you're actually at the event hearing it. In that case, you actually tend to get used to little colorations or errors in the spectral balance, but there's no getting used to the lack of spaciousness.
Well, I was thinking about going down to the Shady Acres, you know, home and grabbing some of the Harman people and bringing them in to talk about, you know, how sound was way back in the day and their specs. But then we were going to try to swing in people that actually have changed stuff in the new age and talk about how things are now. I thought that'd be a nice balance.
They're never going to come on the show now.
Harman, Floyd Toole. I mean, love you, Floyd. You're the man. But come on, dude. Like, shit changes, right?
It does. I mean, that's what science is about. It's about progressing. It's about disproving what you knew in the past. Or proving that it's valid still.
If I had a dime for every like theoretical shit that I was taught and supposed to do and did and didn't work in this business, I'd be a millionaire. I'm telling you.
You wouldn't be on this live stream right now.
You have to have the balance of experience and the theoretical stuff. And that's what Matt and I bring to the table. That's the whole idea.
Key to karate. If balance good, karate good.
Balance of karate. Like
Mr.
you want me to put speakers where? I'm supposed to tell my wife what? That's the balance. Because listen, theoretically, we could do all kinds of cool shit. But the reality is when I have my clients and their wives and the builder and everything, we have to make compromises. And what I'm saying is there's so many amazing products now. Those compromises don't have to be such a compromise, if that makes sense.
There's
a lot of stuff to do into the Matt's got some, like the people. I'm excited to hear from the people Matt's got coming. People from Princeton, these theoretical, I mean, just amazing audio technologies. What I want to do is bring on some integrators, some big guys in the country that are doing some amazing jobs, and to say, hey, what are you doing for people? What are you finding that people love and they don't love? I'm also thinking, bringing in some high-end audio 2-channel stores, like Kevin Deal, who's selling high-end audio all over the country. Are you doing more streaming stuff? If you are, what are you selling? Are you doing more analog? Are you seeing a resurgence in analog? Things that hopefully people out there in the Audioholics land would like to know.
Yeah, we're trying to bring you guys every angle of the business, not just the common stuff you find on other YouTube channels, whether it's, the brands that everybody covers.
Fluff. It's all freaking fluff.
Yeah, we're trying to do it all. We're trying to do from soup to nuts. That's why I convinced Matt to come down here. I know you're not going to give me that credit, but come on, man. I convinced you to move here. It was
from Chicago to Sarasota. Come on. Yeah. How much convincing did he need? I know I'm a little gruff, obviously.
Really?
But
who told you that?
Speaking from experience, because you know what? I think 90% of the shit people are full of shit, to be honest with you. I'm just speaking from experience. I love high-end audio, and I'm open-minded as hell to listen to new things. But there's a reality, then there's a perpetual design fantasy world that people live on. So we got to find that balance, and that's what Matt and I are going to do.
Well, I'm hoping, and Don, I'm hoping down the road that giant house that you guys are working on, that we could probably maybe get some coverage of that too. I mean, that people would love to see that.
The biggest giant, not the only giant house.
No, the biggest,
literally. No, because what we're going to be doing there are going to be trend-setting things that'll have ramifications to, you're going to do the video about micro LEDs, right? How we feel that they're going to take over. I feel strongly about it. The problem is you can't put all 3 speakers behind a solid screen. So now Matt and guys from RBH and different people, we're actually investigating, and we're going to be trendsetters on that. I'm leaning on Matt on that. So don't screw it up, Matt.
So the cool thing is, at the end of September, we're going to have Jason Dunstall. Is that how you say his name? Jason Dunstall. Jason Dunstall and Joel Silver are going to be on our live stream talking about the future of
tell
micro
him who
LED.
Joe Silver is. Joe Silver is the video godfather.
He's the founder. Is he the founder of ISF?
He's the founder of ISF.
Him and Joe King. Yeah.
Joe King. Yeah. So I mean, they are the video godfathers of video, I should say.
Well, let's ask our viewers. Do you want to have more video stuff? Because we're thinking seriously about bringing on reviewing TVs and projectors on Audioholics and bringing that aspect in. What do you think? Would you like to learn more about it? I would.
Yeah. And actually do some measurements and calibrations. That's why I want to have Jason come over my house first and calibrate all my displays. And then maybe when Matt's house is already the same thing, and we could do videos on that. It's awesome. I mean, you got to have good audio and good video. We're about both.
Seriously, you really do have to have both. Man, micro LEDs. I can't wait I'm telling you, once you see this shit, you're going to be like, wow.
Yeah.
1,200 nits from a 220-inch diagonal screen. I mean, that's crazy. The best projectors you're ever going to find are going to be 150 to 200 nits. They have to do processing inside of them to do HDR. They have to. Where these do it natively, it's just crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, the reality is, I don't think that projector technology is ever going to advance far enough where it can actually handle the brightness necessary to reach that 10,000 nits target, or even 1,000 nits for that matter.
But it's never going away. There's always going to be applications for projectors. Thank God. I mean, that's what we do. But I'm telling you, after seeing this 220-inch diagonal micro LED TV, standing like 15 feet away, watching the new Avengers movie with Scarlett Johansson in it.
Oh,
I couldn't believe how good it looked. It looked as good as a really good TV. I was like, my jaw hit the floor. How good it looked.
Yeah. So the key, of course, is just most integrators are trained with projector systems, or they're trained with TVs, and that's what people and that's what people know how to do to get good sound. And so if it gets to a point where 100-inch to 200-inch plus direct view displays is the new standard, then we have to evolve with that. We have to get to a point where we know how to install. And I think we talked about this on a previous one, but a lot of guys might be saying, well, why can't you just treat it like a big TV and put a center channel below it and some left and right?
Power, cooling, audio.
Also, the screen's too big. You gotta have the center channel on the floor.
Right, exactly. And in fact, one of the ones that I was working on recently, that's exactly the problem. The screen is only a few inches smaller than the entire height of the room. So the screen is the size of the room. So what are you going to do? Stick it in the ceiling? You can do that, but the sound's going to be awful. Yeah. So we have to figure out ways to get better sound. And there are some tricks. There's a number of different ways to handle this.
Hence that big theater that we're doing that I just talked about. That's going to be, imagine the material we're going to have to talk about if we land that contract. You know what I mean? It's exciting stuff, man. I hope you guys tune in. Listen, we're as big audio nerds as you guys are. We love this. We're just happen to do it for a living, you know, and we're dialed into people, but we're always learning new stuff constantly. And that's the whole idea behind the Matt and Don AV Talk. I mean, that's what we really want to do.
Gives me a break. So it gives me a break so I could go in the theater room and listen to music.
Yeah, give the Godfather a break, you know.
Yeah.
He can go out and do other things. So
and I appreciate you guys manning the fort for me. I do want to have more diversity, more guests on the channel. And we're actually looking at doing a monthly newsletter on YouTube. Have Wade Robson come on because he does our weekly newsletter. I don't know if you guys are subscribed to the Audioholics newsletter, but if you aren't, you should, because we have really good content on that. We're going to try to bring you in video format.
We need to bring him out because he's amazing.
Yep. He's been with me for like 17 years. It's crazy. Like almost as long as Audioholics has been around, maybe 18 years. So
you put up with your shit that long, you know, the guy's amazing.
He's super cool guy.
So I want everybody out there to know what a tight knit family we have here at Audioholics. We really do, you know, from Tio and Gene and Matt and Larson, who's amazing. We're working our asses off to try to get the best content out there, realistic, real measurements and real views for everybody versus the bullshit fluff that you're getting from 90% of these influencers who've had like 9 systems that they've heard in their house. You know what I mean? And I hate to say that, but it just pisses me off that people would buy equipment based on some super smooth, slick video guy who's had like no experience in audio. You know what I mean? Like, really give me a break. Like,
but good production. So good production means something.
Yeah, but good production, I guess. Whatever. That's why Biden got elected. But I'm just saying, you got.
He went there. He went there.
I don't give a shit. He's an asshole. But whatever you do, you don't believe these super slicksters, dude. Believe the real deal. Just saying.
Well, I'm going to end this before it goes down the road we don't want to travel to. But appreciate having you guys here. So, guys, make sure
Hugo died of steroid poisoning.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know. I keep getting that question. The guy's been radio silent for over a year and a half. I'm not sure
he didn't do anything but go, that's right, Gene. That's right, Gene.
Oh, come on. We love Hugo.
He was like a parrot. He was like a parrot on your shoulder.
He was my Ed McMahon.
You are correct, sir. Yes.
He was. He was. Oh, there's a lot of comments. Hey, people are still asking for him. 2 years, 3 years later, he hasn't been on the channel. People are still asking for him. So that tells you that we leave an impression on people. And with that said, guys, don't forget about our Patreon channel at patreon.com/audioholics. We appreciate the support on our channel. I will be putting stuff in the community tab so you guys can vote on topics you'd like to see Matt and Don cover on their weekly show. Again, we're going to be doing this tentatively Tuesday nights at 11 p.m. East EST or EDT, whatever we're in right now. There'll be special times where Matt will get on earlier with guests like the guy he was talking about from Princeton. He might even have some loudspeaker designers that, you know, don't stay up as late as us. But all that stuff will be in the community tab. So please make sure you check our community tab regularly. I update the community tab probably once or twice a day. That's how active I am with YouTube. So we're always letting you guys know what's coming next. Don't forget about next week. We're going to be doing all that live streaming for Cedia. Going to be incredible amounts of education. Make sure you hit that bell notification so you get notices. Subscribe to the channel. And until next time, my friends.
Taxation is theft.
Keep listening.